I was 19 years old when a bomb exploded near our home in Aleppo, Syria in 2023, sending shrapnel through my chest and stopping my heart. And for 17 minutes, I was clinically dead while doctors desperately tried to revive me. But during those 17 minutes on March 8, 2023, I wasn't in darkness or nothingness. I stood before Jesus Christ in brilliant light, and he showed me visions of the year 2026, giving me a specific message to deliver about what is coming and how people must prepare. A message so urgent that he sent me back to life to share it before time runs out. My name is Youssef Ibrahim. I was born in 2004 in Aleppo, Syria, into a Muslim family. I grew up during Syria's civil war, experiencing violence, displacement, and loss that became normal for my generation. By age 19, I had witnessed destruction that no young person should see, lost friends and relatives to war, and lived with constant uncertainty about survival. Despite the war, my family tried to maintain some normalcy. I helped my father with his small shop, studied when schools were open, and dreamed of eventually leaving Syria for a country at peace. I practiced Islam culturally as my family did, praying occasionally and observing Ramadan, but the war had made me question many things about faith and God's presence in suffering. March 8, 2023, started as an ordinary day in war-torn Aleppo. I was helping my father at our shop in the morning, then returned home in the early afternoon. My mother was preparing lunch, and my younger siblings were in the house. The normalcy was deceptive. In Aleppo, explosions and violence could erupt without warning at any moment. Around 2 p.m., I heard the whistle of incoming artillery. I had learned to recognize that sound, and knew we had seconds before impact. I shouted for my family to take cover, but there wasn't enough time. The explosion hit a building near our home, and the blast wave threw me across our courtyard. Shrapnel from the explosion struck multiple parts of my body, with the most serious piece piercing my chest. I remember the immediate aftermath, the ringing in my ears, the dust and smoke filling the air, the screaming of my family members. I looked down and saw blood spreading across my chest from the shrapnel wound. The pain was overwhelming, but worse was the sensation of my strength rapidly draining away. I knew instinctively that I was dying. My father and neighbors rushed me to a nearby field hospital that served our area. The medical facility was overcrowded and undersupplied, staffed by exhausted doctors and nurses dealing with constant casualties from the war. They immediately recognized the severity of my injuries. The shrapnel had penetrated my chest cavity, causing massive internal bleeding and trauma. The medical team worked frantically to stabilize me, but my condition deteriorated rapidly. My blood pressure dropped, my breathing became labored, and my heart struggled to pump blood through damaged vessels. At approximately 2:47 p.m., according to hospital records my family later obtained, my heart stopped. I was clinically dead. The doctors initiated emergency resuscitation protocols, chest compressions, medications, electrical shocks to restart my heart. For 17 minutes, they worked desperately to revive me, knowing that brain damage from oxygen deprivation typically becomes irreversible after 4 to 6 minutes without heartbeat. My family stood outside the trauma room hearing the frantic activity, praying desperately but losing hope as minutes passed with no success. But while medical staff fought to restart my physical heart and my family prepared for the worst, I wasn't experiencing death as darkness or nothingness. I was experiencing something that would change my understanding of everything, an encounter with Jesus Christ, and a prophetic message about the year 2026 that I was commanded to share with the world. The moment my heart stopped, I experienced a transition that was instantaneous and profound. One moment I was aware of the trauma room, the pain, the desperate medical activity. The next moment, I was standing in a place of brilliant light that was unlike anything earthly, not harsh or blinding, but warm, inviting, and filled with peace that transcended all the fear and pain I had just experienced. I looked down and could see my body on the hospital table below, surrounded by doctors performing chest compressions and administering medications. But I felt no attachment to that broken body or concern about what was happening to it. I was more alive and conscious in this place of light than I had ever been in my physical body. I became aware of a presence approaching me, a figure of radiant light and indescribable majesty. I knew immediately, without being told, that I was in the presence of Jesus Christ. His appearance was both familiar and beyond description. I could see a form, a face filled with compassion, eyes that conveyed infinite love and complete understanding of everything I had experienced in my 19 years. Jesus spoke to me, not in Arabic or any earthly language, but in communication that transcended words. I understood perfectly everything he conveyed. His first words were reassurance. Youssef, do not be afraid. You are safe here, and I have brought you to this place for a specific purpose. I fell to my knees, overwhelmed by his presence and holiness. I had been raised Muslim and knew little about Jesus except that he was a prophet in Islamic teaching. But the Jesus before me was infinitely more than a prophet. He was God himself, radiating divine authority and love simultaneously. Jesus helped me stand and told me he had much to show me and tell me, that my time in this place was limited, and that I needed to pay close attention because I would be returning to earth with a message. I was confused. Returning to earth? I had died. My body was damaged beyond repair. How could I return? Jesus smiled at my confusion and said that nothing was impossible with God, that he had purposes for my life that were not yet fulfilled, and that he was about to show me visions of the future that I must share with others. He said the year 2026 was especially significant, that events would unfold that year requiring spiritual preparation, and that I was being chosen as a messenger to warn people while there was still time. He then showed me visions, not like watching a movie, but experiencing events as if I were present during them. I saw the year 2026 unfold before me with clarity and detail. I witnessed specific events, circumstances, and spiritual dynamics that would characterize that year. The visions were sometimes beautiful and sometimes terrifying, but all of them carried urgency about spiritual readiness. Jesus explained that 2026 would be a year of divine intervention and testing, when God would move in ways that would shake nominal faith but strengthen genuine believers. He showed me signs that would precede these events, specific patterns in world affairs, natural phenomena, and spiritual dynamics that would signal the approaching fulfillment of what he was revealing. The message Jesus gave me was both warning and invitation. Warning about complacency, about lives lived without genuine relationship with God, about false securities and misplaced priorities. But also invitation to turn to him, to prepare spiritually, to align lives with eternal truth before the events of 2026 would force everyone to confront ultimate questions about God, eternity, and what truly matters. Jesus revealed specific details about 2026 that I am commanded to share. He told me that beginning in early 2026, there would be a series of events, both natural and spiritual, that would serve as wake-up calls to humanity. He showed me visions of natural disasters increasing in frequency and intensity, not as random occurrences, but as signs that the created order itself was responding to spiritual realities. He revealed that 2026 would mark a significant acceleration of what he called the separation, a spiritual dividing of humanity into two distinct groups: those who genuinely know him and those who only claim religion without relationship, those whose faith is rooted in truth, and those whose beliefs are based on cultural tradition or personal preference. He said this separation would become increasingly visible as events unfolded. Jesus showed me visions of religious institutions and structures being shaken. He said that many churches, mosques, and religious organizations that had become comfortable and complacent would face crises that would expose whether their foundation was truly built on him or on human tradition and power. He said, "What can be shaken will be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken may remain." He revealed that 2026 would also be a year of great spiritual harvest, that the shaking and the signs would drive many people to seek him genuinely for the first time. He showed me visions of people from all backgrounds and religions encountering him personally, just as I was encountering him in that moment. He said that the events of 2026 would create openness to spiritual truth that hadn't existed before. The core message Jesus gave me was this: tell people that time is shorter than they think. Tell them that 2026 will reveal who is truly mine and who is merely religious. Tell them to examine their hearts now, to build their lives on me rather than on temporary securities, and to prepare spiritually for events that will test every person's faith and force everyone to choose whom they will serve. He also gave me specific instructions about what spiritual preparation means. He said people must move beyond cultural or nominal faith to genuine relationship with him. They must repent of living for themselves and surrender completely to him as Lord. They must examine whether they truly know him or only know about him. They must ensure their foundation is solid before the storms of 2026 test what they have built their lives upon. Jesus showed me that the events of 2026 would particularly impact those who had been lukewarm in faith, comfortable with religion, but not committed to relationship with God. He said many would be shocked to discover that their assumed spiritual security was actually false confidence, and that the crises would force them to either genuinely turn to Him or fully reject Him. There would be no comfortable middle ground remaining. He also revealed that 2026 would be a year when His power would be displayed in extraordinary ways to those who truly believed. He said that just as He was about to perform a miracle by sending me back to life, He would perform miracles for His people during that year that would demonstrate His reality and power to a skeptical world. The urgency in Jesus' message was palpable. He repeatedly emphasized that time remaining for preparation was limited, that 2026 was approaching quickly, and that people must respond now rather than waiting until events forced them to confront these realities. After Jesus finished showing me the visions and delivering the message about 2026, He told me it was time to return. I didn't want to leave His presence. The peace, the love, the clarity I experienced there was infinitely better than anything I had known on earth. I pleaded to stay, but Jesus was firm. He said, "You have work to do. You must deliver this message about 2026 while there is still time." Many people need to hear this warning and invitation. You are young, but I have chosen you for this purpose. Trust me, and do not be afraid of what people will say or think. Jesus placed His hand on my chest where the shrapnel had pierced, and I felt power flow through me. Not just healing, but a restoration that went beyond physical repair. He said, "When you return, your body will bear witness to my power. The wounds that should have killed you will heal in ways that testify to miraculous intervention. Use your story and the scars as evidence that this message is truly from me." Then suddenly, I felt a pulling sensation, as if I was being drawn back toward my body. The brilliant light began to fade, and I was aware again of the trauma room, the doctors, the machines. I gasped, a sudden, deep breath that startled the medical team who had been performing chest compressions for 17 minutes. The doctor who had been leading the resuscitation later told me that my return was medically inexplicable. He said they had been about to declare me dead permanently when my heart suddenly started beating on its own. My breathing resumed, and I opened my eyes. The monitoring equipment showed vital signs returning to normal ranges far more quickly than should have been possible after 17 minutes of clinical death. My first words upon regaining consciousness were about Jesus and the message. I grabbed the doctor's arm and said urgently, "I need to tell everyone about 2026. Jesus showed me what's coming. People need to prepare." The medical staff thought I was confused or hallucinating from oxygen deprivation, but I was completely lucid and desperate to share what I had experienced. My family was called into the room, and they wept with joy and amazement that I was alive. But I immediately began telling them about my encounter with Jesus, about the visions of 2026, about the message I was commanded to deliver. Their initial joy turned to confusion and concern. I was Muslim, speaking about encountering Jesus as God and receiving prophetic visions from Him. Over the following days, as I recovered in the hospital, the medical staff were baffled by my rapid healing. The chest wounds that should have required extensive surgery and months of recovery were healing at an accelerated rate. Doctors couldn't explain the speed of my recovery or how I had survived 17 minutes of clinical death without apparent brain damage. I shared my story with everyone who would listen: nurses, doctors, other patients, visitors. I told them about Jesus, about 2026, about the urgent message of preparation. Some dismissed me as delusional. Others were intrigued but skeptical. But some believed and began asking questions about how to prepare spiritually for what I had seen. Today, I live as a follower of Jesus Christ, working to share the message He gave me about 2026 while there is still time. My conversion from Islam to Christianity cost me greatly. My family initially rejected me, viewing my testimony about Jesus as betrayal of our faith and culture. But some family members, after witnessing my miraculous survival and hearing my account, have also come to believe in Jesus. The message Jesus gave me about 2026 has 3 core components that I share everywhere I go. First, examine your faith honestly. Don't assume that cultural religion, church attendance, or religious knowledge means you genuinely know Jesus. He said that 2026 will reveal the difference between real faith and mere religion, and that the shaking will expose false foundations. Second, build your life on Jesus as your foundation. He warned that everything else, wealth, status, human relationships, political systems, can be shaken and removed. Only relationship with Him and obedience to His truth provides unshakable foundation. The events of 2026 will test what everyone has built their life upon, and many will discover too late that their foundation was sand rather than rock. Third, prepare for both judgment and harvest. Jesus showed me that 2026 will be a year when God's judgment touches areas of human rebellion and pride, but also when many people will turn to Him genuinely for the first time. Those who know Him should prepare to help others encounter Him during the crises that will drive people to seek spiritual truth. The signs Jesus showed me that will precede the events of 2026 are already beginning to manifest. Natural disasters are increasing. Religious institutions are being exposed and shaken. Spiritual hunger is growing among people dissatisfied with empty religion. The separation between genuine faith and nominal religion is becoming more visible. These are not random developments, but indicators that what Jesus revealed to me is unfolding. I understand that some will dismiss my testimony as the delusions of a young man who experienced oxygen deprivation during clinical death. But I know what I experienced, and the physical evidence of my miraculous survival supports the supernatural nature of my encounter. Doctors cannot explain how I survived 17 minutes of clinical death without brain damage, or how my wounds healed so rapidly. More importantly, the message Jesus gave me aligns with biblical prophecy and with what genuine believers throughout history have warned: that God will intervene in human affairs, that judgment and mercy will both be displayed, and that everyone will be forced to choose whom they will serve. My urgent appeal is this: do not wait for the events of 2026 to force you to confront spiritual reality. Examine your relationship with God now. Ensure your foundation is Jesus Christ rather than religious tradition or personal preference. Prepare spiritually while there is still time, because Jesus made clear that the window for comfortable, easy decision-making is closing. I died at 19 and stood before Jesus Christ. He sent me back with a message about 2026 that the world needs to hear. Time is shorter than most people think. What's coming will shake everything that can be shaken. But those who genuinely know Him and are built on His foundation will stand firm. That is the message I was commanded to deliver, and I will continue sharing it until the prophesied year arrives and everyone sees that what Jesus revealed was true.